So footwear is a real personal choice, but if you're going to do a through hike, my suggestion would be buy what you think is going to work for you, put a ton of miles on it long before you start that trail, and find out if there's any hot spots, any weaknesses, what kind of problems it's going to create for you, because it'll end a through hike fast as any other reason. And I'm a perfect example of that. Didn't end my hike, but boy, I went through a lot of pain. I did the Continental Divide in '99. I started at Antelope Wells at the very bottom of the boot heel in New Mexico. And by the time I got to Grants, New Mexico, which is where I-40 crosses, my feet were like hamburger. And the mistake I made was I changed up boots. I'd read someplace about these trail runners, probably Ray Jardine, and so I bought maybe some of the first trail runners of the time, which were a Vibrant sole on on a jogging shoe. I bought Asics, and there just was not enough sole in those crossing the high desert, the Chihuahuan Desert. Just ate my feet up. And I can remember limping into Grants, New Mexico, going to a super Walmart and buying the biggest, cushiest boots they had, $17. I went through 4 more pair before I got to Goat Haunt and Waterton across the glacier border into Canada. So after the CDT, I went through a lot of different boots, but I really kind of settled on Keens because they had a big toe box. And that seemed to work out the best for me. And I kind of stayed with them for a number of years. And my wife and I were watching Dixie when she was doing her PCT hike. I think that's the first time I saw these boots. She called them clown boots. They were red and they had a great big toe box like a clown boot would have. And it really piqued my interest. And but I wasn't going back to trail runners. I've been there, done that. Not gonna do that. But a couple of years later, they came out with this Ultra. They came out with a mid, and so I immediately bought a pair, and I loved them. This big toe box is the secret here, and they're soft. I've never had a blister, never had any foot problems with these things. I've gotten as many as 1,000 miles out of a pair, but they do have their weaknesses. This little front lip there falls down and I have to JB weld it up. They don't have hooks. They've got just eye rings up here, and that's a problem. On the PCT one morning, I woke up in a snowstorm. My boots were frozen. And for some reason, I had to take a dump that morning right away. And it was like a 911 issue because I couldn't get these boots on. So I ended up out in a snowbank in my bare feet doing my business. And I wrote the company immediately and told them they should add some hooks. But what they did instead was they sold the company to North Face, I believe. And North Face is making a boot. Very similar, big toe box. I haven't tried it yet. I just keep buying used 3.5s on eBay. And as long as I can find them, I'm going to keep buying them. So this boot was probably like a 2019, maybe 2018 boot. Then they had the perfect boot, but these engineers at the shoe company had to do something for their paycheck, so they engineered them into 4.0s that were terrible. I bought a pair of those, one pair, got a couple hundred miles out of them and ditched them. But whatever you decide on, you might want to consider a custom insert. So a lot of these boot companies put pretty cheap inserts in these boots, and the secret for me too has always been, they're probably 45, 50 bucks, but I buy these Sole, S-O-L-E. You can find them on Amazon, probably a lot of shoe stores, but they're customizable inserts. So you put this in the oven at 250, and when they're done, you put it in your boot and stand on it, and it molds to your feet. Or you can just put it in the boot, and after 100 miles, it'll probably mold to your foot anyway. But then it's your custom foot, good support. They last me several boots. This one, you can see it's kind of worn. It's probably been in 4 different pair of boots, and it's still nice and firm and in great shape. But well worth the price of admission to buy a set of these things. You know, there's all kinds of things out on the market like them. But again, for me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These work out great for me, and I'll have them in every footwear that I use from now on. Excuse the noise, it's raining like a bear today. You can hear it on the roof. One other point I want to make though is, at least for me, I usually wear a 10.5, 11 dress shoe, but I always wear a 12 boot, because when you're doing a lot of miles, if you're on a thru hike, your feet are probably going to swell up a size. And you want to find that out for you ahead of time. That's why I say, take the time to study what you think is going to be your footwear of choice. Buy it. Put a lot of miles on it. Try and put a lot of miles on it at one time. That's going to bring up issues that might not come up in 5 or 10 miles. And it's going to make a huge difference when you get out on the trail. It's just one problem you're not going to have to deal with because you've already figured it out. So I'm not a shoe salesman. I'm just trying to save your soul. And I just hope you'll think about footwear, put a lot of thought into footwear before you start up a trail that's going to be 2,000 miles long, because this is going to be your Achilles heel. No pun intended. Keep smiling.